Hello, friends. Today we are going to talk about a very sensitive and important topic. That is 2 years of Taliban rule in Afghanistan. Before I go down to the main topic, I will give you a background of how Taliban came up. What is it? What is the background of Taliban? Very briefly to all of you. First of all, when you look at Afghanistan, this country has two languages. One is Pashto, another one is Dari. And in Pashto language, the word Taliban means student. Right. And the Taliban was founded by Mullah Muhammad Umar in the year 1994. Abdul Ghani Baradar was also co-founder of this Taliban movement. The Taliban is an ultra-conservative Deobandi Islamic fundamentalist movement of Afghanistan. This movement was brought out as a kind of a resistance force to the Soviet forces that were occupying Afghanistan. Kandahar, the second largest city of Afghanistan after Kabul, located in the south of the country, is the de facto capital of Taliban. Its supreme leader and his deputies function from this city only. Interestingly, these leaders, Taliban leaders, they do not think Kabul as the capital of Afghanistan because they think Kandahar is the spiritual hub, spiritual capital, de facto capital of the Taliban group. There are six significant facts or aspects behind the rise of Taliban in Afghanistan. Let me tell you one by one. It emerged in the mid 1990s following the withdrawal of the Soviet troops from Afghanistan. The occupying Soviet forces had to leave as the USSR was first undergoing a serious disintegration process. We all were very aware about this. In fact, the communist bloc countries in East Europe and elsewhere were facing breakdown because of economic inefficiency, stagnation of the communist system itself, political repression, human rights violations, external impacts of the market economy, and Western democracy, to name a few. These are some of the factors actually that forced communism to be brought down in entire Eastern Europe. Once the Soviet army withdrew from Afghanistan between 1988 to 1989, the last communist government of Afghanistan, headed by Dr. Nazibullah, fell in 1992. Subsequently, he was abducted by the Taliban commanders from the UN office in Kabul on the evening of December 26, 1996. He was castrated and murdered. Unfortunately, the Taliban dragged his corpse behind a truck throughout the city of Kabul and finally hanged his body on a traffic light pole. This was the tragic incident that has happened in the heart of Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, in front of the international community. Now, the civil war that was fought between the Soviet forces and the Mujahideen directly helped Taliban to come closer to the centers of power. Since Taliban was also fighting alongside the Mujahideen to oust the Soviet army, it clearly understood the power dynamics and indeed the strength of the Mujahideen. And also, Taliban has got the feel of the power, right? Since it was aligning with Mujahideen to fight the occupying Soviet forces. Finally, the Taliban and the Mujahideen were fully financed by the US and trained by Pakistan in the Afghanistan-Pakistan border province to fight America's prime Cold War enemy, that is USSR. We are all very aware about this. Indeed, the US, while fighting communist Russia, indirectly brought the Taliban to the seat of power. This is the irony of history, international politics, and what we have seen so far. Now, Taliban's first version of the government. Let us have a look at that. The Taliban's first ever government was headed by Mullah Muhammad Omar, the founder of the Taliban movement, who lost one eye while fighting the Soviet army. The government the first Taliban government ruled Afghanistan from 1996 to 2001. Once it came to power, it declared the country is an Islamic emirate, which was earlier known as Democratic Republic of Afghanistan, DRA. Right. The first Taliban was recognized by first government of Taliban was recognized by only 3 countries in the world: Pakistan, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. That was the limitation and problem of the first Taliban government that came to power in Kabul from 1996 to 2001. The best part of the government was that it has brought kind of stability to the chaos that was Afghanistan was witnessing for a long time. It imposed strict Sharia laws all across the country. It banned women from all public places, including attending schools and universities, but except the working women doctors. They allowed women doctors to work. Its regime was known for violence and atrocities on ethnic minorities, such as the Hazaras, Shias, and other such groups. The Hazaras are primarily Shia Muslims in a predominantly Sunni Afghanistan. We have to be very clear about this. These Hazaras, they comprise only 9% of the Afghan population who live in mountainous central parts of the country. In fact, the legend says that these Hazaras are the descendants of Genghis Khan and his army who invaded Afghanistan way back in the 13th century. It imposed curbs on music and television, the Taliban, and started regulating all sports activities by employing even strict dress code for the sports persons. Anyone who defied the government and its orders was either jailed or beaten seriously in public places. In 1999, the UN imposed sanctions on the Taliban government for its linkage with the Al-Qaeda, the dreaded terrorist group, fundamentalist group, radical group founded by Osama bin Laden. Right? Finally, and in fact, Laden was one of the prime accused in the 9/11 terror attack that took place over America. Right? So, with the 9/11 terror attack on the US soil, the then Bush administration asked the Taliban regime to hand over Osama bin Laden to the US. But what happened? The Taliban government of Omar, he simply refused and he asked for evidence. And what happened subsequently? History will witness, and we all have witnessed. Right? Finally, the America invaded Afghanistan on 7th October 2001, and with this, the first government of Taliban fell. It came out of power. With the Taliban's departure, a new government under the leadership of Hamid Karzai was installed by the US in December 2001. But he formally took over as the president of Afghanistan from July 2002 and continued till September 2014. Then, again, another democratic government under the leadership of Ashraf Ghani came and who took over the country in September 2014, and he ruled till the second Taliban government came to power in 15th August 2021. Now, let's talk about the second government of Taliban in Kabul that is ruling the country right now. The Taliban 2.0 came to power on August 15, 2021 under the supreme command of the leader called Mullah Hibayatullah Akhundzada. He's known as the head of the commander of the faithful who is based in Kandahar. The Taliban first came to power when the Soviet troops withdrew from Afghanistan, and the second Taliban government came to power on 15th August 2021 when US troops withdrew from Afghanistan after 2 decades of invasion, right? And it is so interesting that on this 15th August 2021, when we celebrated our independence, that time, and then our neighborhood, what we have seen is mourning for the date of the democratic credentials, the legitimately elected democratic government of Ashraf Ghani. Now, the 3 main deputies of Akhundzada that solely rule Afghanistan are Mullah Yaqub, the son of Mullah Muhammad Omar, the first head of the government of Taliban, who ruled from 96 to 2001. The second one, and this gentleman oversees military operations. The second one is Sirajuddin Haqqani, who leads the Haqqani network and heads the financial and military assets. And the third most important person in the current Taliban government is no other than Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, who heads the Taliban political office in Doha, the capital of Qatar, and also leads all diplomatic negotiations with external leaders or foreign dignitaries. When Akhundzada, an elusive leader, came to power, emerged as the head of the second Taliban government, this gentleman who prefers to live in Kandahar. But if we compare with the first Taliban government of Mullah Muhammad Omar, he has given better stability and recognition to the Taliban than before. Now, like the previous Taliban regime, the current one also revived the Ministry for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice for implementation of Islamic law. During the time of Hamid Karzai, this ministry was banned, right? The most striking aspect of the current regime is that Afghanistan's relation with its neighbor and traditional ally, Pakistan, is under severe stress now. That is a very important aspect and very serious aspect of the second version of Taliban in Kabul. In fact, Pakistan's government, its intelligence agency called Inter-Services Intelligence, that is called ISI, and the army, who had once sponsored, trained and sheltered the Taliban, is virtually declaring war against this country now. That's the most interesting fact. And today, the Taliban leadership in Kabul is no more under the control of Pakistan and its army. Those days of the first Taliban government had gone now. Today, the most alarming aspect for Pakistan is that the dreaded Pakistani Taliban, popularly known as Tehreek-e-Taliban, In Pakistan, it's known as TTP, which was formed in 2007, has become a potential threat to Pakistan. It is operating from Afpak border region, particularly from Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province in the northwest part of the country. This month, in fact, what we have seen is that Pakistan has witnessed territorial threat from the TTP and has claimed to occupy a district called Chitral in the northwestern, province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Even interestingly, the outlawed TTP chief Mufti Noor Wali Masood, he appeared in a video and he was instructing his cadres to carry on, right, the operation against Pakistan army. That's very interesting. Again, the Taliban has become more media savvy this time, unlike before. Another challenge Taliban is constantly facing this time is the threat of Islamic State of Khorasan, a UN designated global terror organization that is very, very alarming for the survival of Taliban itself now. Khorasan is located in the northeastern part of Iran and it borders with Afghanistan. With the retreat and devastation of the Islamic State in Syria and in Iraq and elsewhere in West Asia, it has opened its branches in Afghanistan and Iran, and it has become a big threat for the survival of Taliban today. And in fact, today, the Kandahar group, primarily loyal to Akhundzada, seems more conservative, but the Kabul-based group led by Haqqanis, they are more interested for international recognition and economic cooperation with the rest of the international community. Then, what lies ahead for Afghanistan and Taliban at this moment? First, the lives of the common people are miserable in Afghanistan today. Basic rights are denied to civilians. Women are completely banned from public places. Rivalry with neighbor Pakistan is on the rise once again. And the threat of ISK, Islamic State Khorasan, is a big worry for the entire region, including the survival of the Taliban. And finally, Pakistani Taliban, or that is called TTP, alleged to be backed by the Taliban regime in Kabul, is fast becoming a threat for Pakistan's territorial integrity. This is the challenge today in entire Central Asia. What lies ahead for Afghanistan and what lies ahead for Taliban is a big question mark. However, we need to handle Taliban because it's a treated terrorist group once and even now, though they are functioning as government representatives today. I will be bringing back more such videos to all of you in the near future. And once again, I thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you so much. Bye bye for today.